5 problems, okay, is in that parabola section. So if you look at this first one, talk me through this, okay? Don't make this painful. Talk to me. I know it's Tuesday and you had a long weekend and nobody really wants to be here right now. I want to be here. I want to do math with you. So do math with me. Vertex of 0, 0, right? That's going to go here. Focus of negative 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So how does this parabola open? Up, down, left, or right? To the left, right? It's always going to wrap around the focus. This is our focus. This is our vertex. So it's going to go something like this. Now, when it opens to the left, how does that equation start? X equals, okay? So make sure you're doing X equals. Your vertex is 0, 0. So it's going to be some number and then Y squared. Okay, your A value is just going to get dropped in there. Remember, A equals 1 over 4C. What is your C value right now? Negative 4, right? From center to focus is a negative 4. So that's your C value. So 1 over 4 times negative 4 is a negative 1 over 16. And that will be your equation. Okay. All right, number 2, another 0, 0 vertex. I'm going to change this a little bit because I realized when I changed my numbers that I also changed the format. We're going to say our directrix line, let's call it X equals negative 2 instead of X equals 2. So we're going to just put a negative in front of it. That's fine, but this will give you another view of things here. X equals negative 2 is what kind of line? Horizontal or vertical? Vertical. So X equals negative 2 is right here, vertical at negative 2. So where's your focus?
0, 2. Or 2, 0.
2, 0, right? You're going right here for your focus. So here's your vertex, here's your focus. That means we are opening this way, okay? X equals or Y equals? X equals, because we're opening to the right or the left, that's X equals. Up or down is your Y equals, right? So this is going to be X equals. A vertex of 0, 0 means this is going to just be a Y squared, and we just have to drop in our A value. Yeah. The focus is, so if this is my vertex to my directrix, it's got to be the same distance the other direction. Okay, so A is always going to be 1 over 4C. What's our C value right now? A positive 2 from vertex to focus, right? So this right here is our C value. So 1 over 4 times 2 would be 1 over 8, and that is your equation. Yes?
How do you know how wide the parabola is going to be? Is that the length?
No. So this number determines how wide or narrow it is. The fractions are pretty wide. If it was so technically if I really wanted to be true to the shape, it would probably be more like this. If it was X equals 3Y squared, then it gets more narrow. So a whole number, we talked about that, gosh, what chapter was that? First semester sometime where we talked about narrow versus wide, right? I'm not really focusing on that part of it for this. So you could find it. You could try to plot points and make it more accurate. I'm not worried about the width on these. I'm more worried about the other details of it. So, okay, number 3, a focus at 0, 3. So here's your focus. And a directrix line at Y equals negative 3. What is Y equals? What kind of line? This is horizontal. So Y equals negative 3 is going to go right here, which means my vertex is where? 0, 0, right? The vertex is always perfectly between the focus and the directrix. So here's my vertex. How does this open? It opens up. You want to open away from the directrix and around the focus. Okay, so when a parabola opens up, what does your equation start with? The Y. So this is going to be Y equals, again, we have a 0, 0 vertex, so it's just going to be y equals something times x squared. A is always equal to 1 over 4 times c. What is our c value? It's 3 from the vertex to the focus. Okay, so c is 3. So 1 over 4 times 3, or 1/12, would be the setup there. All right, number 4 changes. So our vertex is not 0, 0 anymore. Still a parabola. Says the vertex is 2, 1. So that's here. Focus is 2, 4. So that's here. Focus, vertex. So this one opens up. X equals or y equals? This is y equals. If it opens up, it's y equals. So our general setup for the y equals is this one. Right? Well, your vertex is your h and your k. So this is going to go here. This is going to go here. And we have to find our a. So I'm just going to set it up without the a for now. X what? Plus or minus? Minus 2 squared. And then plus or minus 1? Plus 1. Okay, so you just drop in your h and k. And then a is still 1 over 4c. But your c is not just the numbers as you see them on the focus anymore like they were before. Your c value is still, though, the distance from the vertex to the focus. So your c value is 3 on this one. So you're doing 1 over 4 times 3, or 1/12. So your equation should look like that.
Are there still like the directrix line?
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so your directrix, if you were to graph it, you don't have to graph these. That's why I'm not putting everything in. But if you were to graph it, if you did have to graph it, we went up 3 here, so down 3, 1, 2, 3, would put your directrix right here. Totally messed that up when I made my key this morning, though. Yeah?
Does the h and the k switch if it's x?
Yes. Yep. Totally does. And that's on that formula sheet too, right? If you look at that setup. All right, this one, y equals 2. What kind of line is that? It's horizontal. So y equals 2 is going to be right here. A vertex of 1, 1 is right here. Where's your focus? It's where? 1, 0, right? Your focus would be right here. So because the distance here is 1, the distance here has to be 1 also. That means we're going to open down. So is that x equals or y equals? That's y equals. Okay. So your a value, and then vertex is hk, right? So it's going to be x minus the h value squared plus the k value. How do you find a? 1 over 4 times c. What's your c value right now? -1, right? The distance from the vertex to the focus, we went down 1. So 4 times -1, so this would be a -1/4. And then that will be your equation. Just a little like heads up for you. This little 2, your squared, gets ditched all the time. Don't ditch that. Okay, that's a very different problem if you don't have the squared in there. So make sure you put your little squareds in where they go. Okay, now we're going to find vertex, focus, and directrix given this equation. So can you tell me where your vertex is? Y equals 3x squared? 0, 0. When it doesn't have all the fancy stuff with it, oops, it's just 0, 0. So we know our vertex is here. Is this going to open up, down, left, or right? It's going to open up. Okay, so if that helps you to visualize it a little bit, you can draw that in. You don't have to. Again, it just says identify these pieces, but I will give you graphs. How how do we figure out the focus? Your A value is your 3, right? So A equals 1/4 times C. We need to figure out what our C value is and then cross multiply. So treat this like 3/1. So you get 12C equals 1 and then divide by 12. So your C value is 1/12. Where's your focus? 0, 1/12. Yep. So if it's a C value of 1/12, we're moving up 1/12, which is hard to graph because it's very close to our 0, 0. So that would be our focus. What would our directrix line be? Is that an X equals or a Y equals? It's Y equals because it would be horizontal. Y equals what? Negative 1/12, right? That same C value, but just the opposite of it. Good on that? Okay, almost done with parabolas here. What would the vertex of this parabola be? -1, +4, right? This is x minus h squared plus k is the setup. So -1, +4. What's the vertex of the next one? Ah, good catch. It is 6, 3. When it's x equals, then this is your k value and this is your h value. So it's a positive h value and it's actually a positive k value, opposite of what it looks like when it's on the inside. So 6, 3 would be there. Yes, ma'am. Why isn't the 4 negative?
Yeah.
So the equation looks like this, right? The general equation for it says you subtract your h value, but you add your k value. So this is saying we're adding a positive 4, right? This is a positive 4. X minus h is saying x minus a -1. So this one's a -1 because we have to subtract it, and that turns it into addition when we subtract the negative, right? But this one is, you're adding in the equation itself. So if that number's positive, you keep it positive. If that number here, if it was -4, then it would be a -4 for that. So just remember, it's always opposite of what it looks like inside the parentheses. It's always the same as what it looks like outside of the parentheses. Okay? All right. Tell me which conic section this is going to be. This is a circle. When it's the x squared and the y squared together like this, that's going to be a circle. So your center of this circle is what? -1, 2. Okay, so -1, 2 is right here. What's the radius of this circle? It's 3. This is r squared, right? So if r squared is 9, then the radius is 3. And then you plot 4 points. Up 3, down 3, left 3, right 3. And then you can just sketch that circle. Ooh, I missed. Do you guys want those windows shut? You're glowing all of a sudden. The sun came out. You good? You want shut? Try the next one. Number 9. Identify what is your center there and what is your radius, just like what we just did. What'd you get? What's your center? -5, +8. So again, always opposite of what it looks like it is. And what's your radius? 2. Yeah, take the square root of that r squared number. Okay, number 10 says write the equation of a circle with a center of 0, 4, and a radius of 7. So now they're just switching it up, right? Instead of giving you the equation, they're giving you the center and radius. So it's going to end up looking something like this. This is your H and your K. So it's going to be X what? It's going to be X squared. X minus 0 squared plus Y minus 4 squared equals what? 49. So your best answer here, X minus 0, is just X squared plus Y minus 4 squared equals 49. Okay. All right, number 11 says write an equation for the circle that's translated 4 units left and 6 units down. So if you go 4 left and 6 down, let's think about that. That would put our center, if it was at 0, 0, right? This would be 0, 0. 4 left is going to be a negative 4. 6 down is going to be a negative 6. So if that's my center, how does it look? X what? Plus 4. Minus a negative 4 is X plus 4 squared. Y plus 6 squared. What's your R squared? 16. That one stays the same because we didn't make the circle bigger or smaller. We just shifted it. We just translated. Okay, it just went to a new spot. All right, and then last one of these, this is probably the one that gets done wrong the most just because it has the most steps to it. They give you a center, right? So this is your H and your K, and then they give you a point. What is that point in terms of variables? X and Y, okay? So I always say write the answer first just because so many people try to put X and Y in their final answer as a number. We want X and Y as X and Y in our final answer. So here's your final answer. It's going to be X what? Minus 3. X minus the H value squared plus Y minus a negative 4 is going to be Y plus 4 squared equals our R squared, which we have to solve for. So this is your final answer. The way we find it is we drop in values for X and Y. So it's going to be 1 minus 3 squared plus 9 plus 4 squared equals the radius squared. So simplify that. 1 minus 3, that's a negative 2 squared, so 4. 13 squared is 169 equals your R squared. So that means R squared is just the sum of those two things, 173, okay? Don't square root that. What do we do with it? Just drop it in, right? This is going to go here. 173 is R squared, and that is your final answer. Any questions on that? Okay, I feel like that's the stuff that we haven't really touched for a little while. The rest of this should feel really familiar because we did a review. Well, if you did the extra credit, you did a review. And we've just been working a lot more with these recently. So ellipses and hyperbolas. Why don't you try number 13 right now? It says write the equation of an ellipse. Okay, so this one's an ellipse with center at the origin, which is nice, based on the information that you see. So a co-vertex at 2, 0, a vertex at 0, 6. See if you can write the equation of an ellipse. Put that away and do your math. All right. What do you got? What'd you come up with? What was your equation? Is this a plus or minus equation? Ellipses are plus, right? So it's going to be, because it's at the origin, it's the simple, right? It's x squared over something plus y squared over something equals what? 1, always 1. What'd you get for your a squared? 4. What'd you get for your b squared? 36. Good. Okay, so here's how you do it. If your co-vertex is at 2, 0, that's here. Your vertex is at 0, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's here. God bless you. You can just reflect those, right? Your other vertex then is going to be down here. Your other co-vertex is going to be right here. So your ellipse looks like this. Now, again, you don't have to graph this. It's just if you are more visual, this might be helpful because you see right now your a value is what? Remember, a always goes from the center to on your x-axis, whatever point, vertex or co-vertex. So this is going to be an a value of 2. If a is 2, a squared goes here. So 4 is what goes there. And then your y value, your b value is 6. So 6 squared gives you 36. That's your b squared value. And that's your equation. Again, you don't need that. You had your a value right here and you had your b value right here. If that's how you prefer to see it and not graph it, you don't need to graph it. Any questions on that? Okay, still centered at the origin, so I still know for this next one it's x squared over something plus y squared over something equals 1. Your foci are at 0 plus or minus 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Co-vertices are at plus or minus, 2, 0. Okay, so those are your co-vertices. That means your vertices are above and below your foci there. But we don't know where. But we can figure out where. Do you know your a value right now? What is it? A value is 2 again, right? Very similar to the last one. So a is 2. It's from center to the x-axis here. In this case, co-vertice. So 2 squared is 4, right? This is a squared. The b value we don't know right now, but we can find it. What's your c value? It's the 4, right? It's your foci number. So c is 4. Do you, for your foci equation, for an ellipse, do you add or subtract? Subtraction. It's always opposite of what the equation is, right? So it's c squared equals either a squared minus b squared or b squared minus a squared. It's always bigger minus smaller for this. And our vertice is going to be up here somewhere and down here. So our b value is going to be our bigger. So it's going to be b squared minus a squared. I know c squared is 16. B squared is what we're solving for. Minus a squared, which is the 4. So you would add 4 to both sides and you get b squared is 20. And we don't need to square root it because that's what we want in our answer is the b squared value. So it looks just like that.
How did you know b squared was bigger?
Because of the fact that my foci are on the y-axis, that means my vertices are going to be on the y-axis also, and the vertices are always further away than the co-vertices. So the vertices will always be bigger than the co-vertice number. Yeah, Jada.
This question is, I'm not confusing how the a squared. And then also for the b squared, what do you subtract? Oh, never mind.
We're subtracting, yep. So the a value is vertex to either co-vertice or vertices, depending on what it is. In this case, it's always going to be what's on the x-axis is your a value. So from the center to the co-vertex is 2 units. So that's your a value, right? And then, yeah, this is going to be bigger minus smaller, b squared minus a squared. B squared is going to be bigger up here because it's with the foci. So your vertices are always going to be further away than your co-vertices. So it's always going to be the vertices minus the co-vertices, if you will, squared. You want to try this one on your own? 15? It's an ellipse. Now the center has moved, right? So this is your new center. So -1, 1, 2, 3. Again, you don't have to graph it. It has a height of 8 and a width of 16. So we know it's going to be x like this squared plus y something squared equals 1, right? Because our center has moved, then we got to add that in up top. See if you can figure out what that should be. Height of 8, width of 16. All right, let's take a look at what you did with your center. So if your center is -1, 3, what does that look like? X plus or minus? X plus. It's x minus a -1, so x plus 1 squared. Y minus 3. Okay, so that's your center setup. If your height is 8, that means you're going down 4 and up 4. Right? That means that's your B value. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Your B is going to be, in this case, -4 and +4. When you square it, it's going to be positive. So it doesn't matter if you think of it as positive or negative here. So B squared, which goes here, is going to be a -4 squared or 4 squared. Either way, that's 16. What's your A value going to be? If your width is 16, how far are you going to the right?
64.
It would be 64. You're going 8 to the right, right? This would be an 8 for your A value, and 8 the other way as well. So 8 squared or 64 would be your A squared. So the width here, it's half of that squared, okay? All right, look at number 16. Where's your center for this one? Center's at 0, 0, right? Because there's nothing behind your x squared or your y squared. So we have a center at 0, 0. We have to figure out what are our vertices, what are our co-vertices, what are our foci with this. Can you tell me your A value? A will be 3. This is A squared, right? So A is going to be 3. What's your B value? 5. B is 5. Okay, so we will have to find our C value to figure out our foci. Can you tell me what your vertices are going to be? For ellipses, real quick, do your vertices come from what comes first or what is bigger with ellipses? What is bigger, right? So our bigger right now comes from here. So if B is 5, then our vertices are at 0 plus or minus 5, right? So if you want to plot that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can. You don't have to. Where are your co-vertices then? Yeah, your A value, so plus or minus 3, and then 0. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So your ellipse is going to look like that. How do you find the foci?
A squared plus B squared.
Plus?
Or minus.
Minus, right? C squared is going to be either A squared minus B squared or B squared minus A squared. Bigger minus smaller. So if you look up here, these are the squared versions of it, right? 25 and 9. So we're going to go 25 minus 9. Okay? So C squared is 16. Take the square root of that. So C is 4. So where are your foci? 0 plus or minus 4, right? It's foci have to be with the vertices. So it's going to be here and here. not here and here. That would put them outside of it anyway, right? That doesn't make sense. So this is going to be 0 plus or minus that c value. Ellipses, you good? Yeah, Jada.
For the co-vertices, since the, for the, isn't the, B squared bigger, so wouldn't that mean we'll put the number for the B squared co-vertices?
The bigger is the vertices. The smaller will be your co-vertices. Because the vertices have to have the foci with them, right? So it's going to wrap longer around those foci. So vertices are bigger, co-vertices will be smaller. Yeah, always. Vertices are always bigger with ellipses. Okay, hyperbolas. Last ones, right? Tell me about a hyperbola equation. What do? You subtract, right? We're subtracting with hyperbola equations. So again, you may plot these, you don't have to plot these, but it is going to be subtraction. And your vertices, is it whatever is bigger or whatever comes first? Whatever comes first, okay, is your vertices. Okay, so for this one, if you have vertices at plus or minus 1, 0, okay, so here and here, and then your foci are at 2 and negative 2, 0. So here's your foci, here's your vertices. How does this hyperbola open? To the left and to the right, or to the up and or top and bottom, up and down? Left and right. It's going to wrap around the foci, right? So it's going to be something like this. Now, we could find our little rectangle and figure that out for sure. You don't have to on this one to see exactly what it looks like. We'll do one of those in a little bit. But it's whatever comes first is your vertices. So is this going to be an x squared first or a y squared first? X squared, because your x's is where your vertices are. So it's going to be a center of 0, 0. So it's just x squared over something minus y squared over something equals 1. What's your a value? What is it? Center to vertices, right, is the length of 1. So your a is 1. So a squared goes here. That means 1 squared, or just 1. B value, we don't have, but we do have our c. What's your c value? C is 2. C is going to be center to foci. So c is 2. So if c squared equals, remember this one we're adding for the foci equation. So a squared plus b squared or b squared plus a squared, doesn't matter. If c is 2, then that's 4 equals 1 plus your b squared value. So we're going to take away the 1. And your 3 is your b squared. So that's just going to go right there. What? I can do it from it. That's fine. Yeah. Thank you. So that's your equation. Good there? Okay. You try the next one. Number 18. Foci at 0 plus or minus 4. Vertices at 0 plus or minus 2. Might not quite finish this today. We'll see. If you take a look, so foci at 0 plus or minus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, those are your foci. Vertices at 0 plus or minus 2. Looks like that. So this is opening this way. Your vertices are on your y, so it's going to be a y squared first. Because the center is 0, 0, you don't have to shift it at all. And we are subtracting. So we know it's going to look like that. Okay. Can you tell me your a value right now? We don't know it, right? A is whatever is going left and right from our 0, 0, and we don't know that one. We don't have our general setup here. Can you tell me your B value right now?
4. Or 2.
B is 2. B is from center to vertex, right? So B is 2. Can you tell me your C value right now? C is 4. That's this one. Center to focus is your C value. So we know C is 4, B is 2, and we know it's A squared equals, not A squared, sorry, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So C squared, 16, equals A squared, we're going to solve for that, plus B squared, 2 squared, which is 4. So take away the 4. So we get A squared is 12. That's going to go under our X squared, right? What's going to go under our Y squared right now? 4. That's your B value squared. So 2 squared, oops, not squared. So you get 4 there, and that'll be your equation. Yeah. The C value always goes from the center to the focus. So from 0 to 0, 4, 0, 0 to 0, 4, that's 4 units. I think the bell rings in 2 minutes. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to finish these ones tomorrow, not tomorrow, Thursday when I see you.